Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Matt Chat, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com. I'm joined today by the National Development and Residential Coach, the newest one for USA Wrestling. He's still wearing orange. My good friend, Zack Esposito. Or is that salmon, Zach? How are you?
Kind of red.
Kind of red.
Stillwater, it's orange. When I'm out of Stillwater, it's red. So
there you go. You still got the cowboy behind you. You got the cool artwork behind you.
My house, so I'm still, fixing to move out. Got to put in the house up for sale. Go find a place in Colorado. A lot of logistics. Things that definitely is easy to stress my family out. For me, I'm just like whatever.
It's the beauty of being married to a good person, right?
Yeah. I mean, try to pull an Okie out of Oklahoma after being here for her whole life. So I'm honestly, to tell you the truth, it's probably a great way to start this. Is that I am very, very much appreciative of my wife and my family for supporting me on this move. And like I said, it's a hard thing. A good buddy of mine, St. Louis Cardinal, one guy from your area, Matt Holiday, he said this before. It's like, when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And, for me to say yes to this job was, it's something very exciting. It's something I'm very passionate about. But with that also comes sacrifices for my family and sacrifices that I don't even know about yet. I love my wife, Brandy, and my kids, and just, I appreciate them for supporting me in my career and what's going to support them.
Yeah, for sure. I've known, and for people that don't know, your wife worked for Oklahoma State Wrestling for a number of years. So I worked with her on a bunch of different stuff, like when we brought Couture there and, just a bunch of different things. So she's had multiple roles, not just a wife role in your life, so it's funny that you mentioned Holiday and what he said, because I tell people that all the time, like the guys I coach and people, I'm like, when you make a change, there's a reason to go and a reason to not stay. And sometimes the reason to go, it's not that the reason to not stay is like something bad happened, but the reason to go is just better,
Yeah.
So let's start with that. Like, let's start how did you find out about the job? Walk me through the timeline from I'm the associate head coach at Oklahoma State to this.
Well, I mean, the residence job at USA Wrestling, it's been an ongoing thing for a long time. So, I believe one of the first, I don't know before him, but I believe Sergey was what I remember.
He was.
Stu Hudo was there, and then Terry Brands came into the job, and then Brandon Slay and Bill Zadek and Kevin Jackson, and then recently James Green. So the lineage of coaches to be among those names is pretty incredible. So I take it's humbling for me to be able to have my name included in that list of great coaches and great wrestlers. But how it started, I would say, it's been a major passion of mine. The freestyle and international wrestling, world and Olympic stuff, but even more importantly, the developmental side, my enjoyment for working with kids and with the youth. I have an 11-year-old son, and I was heavily involved with our Cowboy Wrestling Club here in Stillwater with just the youth. So when the job came available, I've been in Oklahoma for 21 years. I've just finished up my 14th season, I believe. I mean, the seasons run so far together that I literally don't even know how many years I've been coaching sometimes, especially here. So when the job came available and I saw it, I thought, this is something that, not just elevation in my career, but just something that I looked at, going like, this really fits me as a person. It fits me, the opportunity to work for USA Wrestling and represent your country is something that I was extremely passionate about. So when it came open, I applied for it and went through the whole process. And when they offered the job to me, that's when it really hit the fan, where it's like, okay, now it's your choice. Like, do you want it or you don't want it? And for me, I was after visiting with Coach Smith and speaking to him and him giving me his blessing, and was like, yeah, this is something that I need to do for myself and something I need to grow, to help me grow as a coach and as an individual. And you know, outside of, certain things, I mean, this is a dream job for me.
I think, first of all, I was with Sergey last month, and he literally was telling me stories about when he had that job and was working with Henry. So absolutely, the lineage is something like you mentioned, and obviously it's, your name deserves to be there. You wouldn't be here, but it is a very cool line of coaches, right? Like it's, if I got my name thrown in that list in anything, even if we're just playing cornhole, that's a cool list to be on, So yeah, that part is really impressive. I think it's interesting to watch. Let's talk a little bit about what people see as the job description. Like, I had James on with Bill and Joe Russell, okay, and I know Bill and Joe a little bit. They've always been very kind to me. They've been very encouraging of the pods, especially since we moved them here to USA Wrestling. Both brilliant guys, I think, and personalities that are both very amenable but different. Joe's really sort of quiet, funny, and Bill's a great leader. Not that Joe isn't, but they play their roles like the general and the lieutenant really well. But when Bill was awesome, because he asked me to do the pod after the Pan Ams, and then he had them all in a 3-shot with James. And you could see the spirit of, which I didn't expect, and it helped us do really good numbers. So obviously you've known those guys over the years. How do you anticipate? I'm sure you anticipated going well, but what do you anticipate learning from them? Maybe them learning from you. Tell me how you think that'll go initially.
Bill and I known each other for a while. I mean, actually we've competed, together. So those guys, I mean, that's a big reason also why I was really wanted to take the job also, is that, their philosophies and their values line up with mine. Bill's an incredible person.
Yeah.
Now he's always been very, very good to me, very nice to me. And been a tremendous leader, for USA Wrestling. It's not an easy job, because you're dealing with, especially at the senior level, the different personalities you're dealing with. I mean, you literally are a manager of professional, kind of like a professional sports team, where it's not so much in college where it's like my way or the highway type of stuff. So the balance that he has with his athletes is really something I admire. And I think he's such a great leader by example also. I was just up there last week looking for homes and everything, and to see him with his family and see him interact with his kids and his wife, I mean, those are things that I really, really get along with him. Joe's always been an incredible guy also. He's a funny guy too, so I enjoy the trips, and he's a workhorse too. Wherever trip I'm on, I see Joe there. And then obviously a lot of the overseas trips Joe's on too. Cody Bickley, and excited to work with Rich Bender and the rest of the USA staff and the other coaches. So what do I think that I can bring to the table is, I've been in college coaching for a long time, and I think that's some things that is going to bring a lot of value to USA Wrestling. Because I know the frustrations from the college side. I know a lot of that stuff, and I think I could be a good mediator between USA Wrestling and the colleges and the RTCs. Is that as much as, and Bill will say it too, is that it takes everyone to do this job. It takes the help of the college coaches, takes the help of the RTCs, and USA Wrestling, does get a benefit from it because of the athletes that are wrestling. So, there's so much that goes into it. And I have a lot of ambitions for the job, and I have a lot of passion for the job, and I have a lot that I want to do with the job, not just pop on these overseas tournaments with these kids that are wrestling all these different areas, but involvement with the colleges and involvement with the RTCs, to get into fundraising, to be able to take some burdens off of these colleges and RTCs and kids. So like I said, I have a lot of ambition for it. And I think by me being on the side of the college is going to be even beneficial and helpful for USA Wrestling.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I thought this, and I said it to you quickly before we went on air. Like when you're at Oklahoma State, there's 70 some odd coaches coming for you, and you're coming for 70 some odd coaches too. And now all of a sudden, you're USA Wrestling. Like everyone has got to be nicer to you, and
honestly, to tell you the truth, I'm planning on being nicer to everyone else.
Well, that too. That's probably a fair statement.
I mean, as much as I'm excited about this job, and ready to help, ready to help other colleges and to do what I need to do to show my loyalty to USA Wrestling, in the sense of like, now I see myself on one team, Team USA. And with that, it's, I'm excited to learn from everyone too, that I have, hopefully these colleges and RTCs do open up for me, to be able to come in and learn from the coaches and see, why are they so successful? What are they doing with their student athletes, to help them reach their goals and their dreams, I think that's what I'm most excited about, because it's not like I'm jumping from one college to another college and seeing only their point of view. I'm jumping from a place that I've been at for 21 years as a wrestler and as a coach, going to USA Wrestling. Now I feel like I'm on everyone's team. And I hope that the colleges and the RTCs understand that, I'm here to help, everyone build, because if they do well, USA Wrestling is going to do well. And I understand that, with me, I think what is so fitting about it is that I don't play an ego. I understand coming from the college side and having personal coaches, that, you not necessarily may be their personal coach, but you could lend a helpful hand and really help them and without an ego of doing it, because I think that's what thing was really valuable for me at Oklahoma State is that, I never felt like I was ever doing it for myself. I was always doing it, and it was probably, embedded in my head from Coach Smith is that, we do this for Oklahoma State, for the wrestling program. And the same way I feel about USA is that I don't do this for my benefit. I don't do this for the benefit of the college that I went to previously or coached at previously. I'm doing this for the benefit of USA Wrestling. And to make us, the greatest team at all the age levels.
Zack said the same thing, when I first talked to him about it. I can't even remember, might have been off the air, but how, the mission is bigger than one person, I guess, like what you're trying to accomplish is bigger than Bill Zack, Zack Esposito, plug in the name. Like it's, like that has to be the attitude of the person or persons in your roles. And so, that to me is really interesting. And then you mentioned like about the personal coaches, and we just had Ladarian and Jasper on last week. Obviously your guys, U17 world champion, Cowboy Wrestling Club. I knew Jasper growing up when he was at junior college, coached against him. Ladarian came to Border Brawl as a freshman, and I remember telling my buddy, I'm like, that's the best dude in the meet. And, there were some really good kids in the meet. And then, he lost to a kid, came back and beat him, and then went on that crazy run as, from Iron Man on. So it is interesting because you've been on both sides of it, right? Like I'm assuming like you're one of the coaches that potentially would have traveled with a Ladarian Lockett, or with a Christian Carroll, with a Braden Thompson, with those kind of guys, up and down the line. And so what it feels like for the James Green role or the Kevin Jackson role, now the Zack Esposito role, to go, hey, this is my guy. Like I kind of know what to say to him in between periods. Here, if you look out for this and that. I talked to Pritz the other week, and he was talking about 3-man mechanics or 3-person mechanics in a corner where Coach A is doing this, Coach B is doing this, and then you got somebody on the other side, watching. And to me, that made so much sense. So you guys will obviously, really be integrating all of that. You mentioned when, you talked about coming to USA Wrestling. You're an East Coast guy, a Jersey guy, which I think people forget because you've been in Oklahoma State over half your life now. I think, probably. Yeah. And I know you're proud of your roots. You're a Blair guy, and you were on. I guess let's start with. It's tough to leave, right? Like 21 years of your life, as an athlete and as a coach, and it's not like you're leaving on bad terms and you're not friends with these people anymore. But you're certainly not going to see them as often as you will, and they're not going to be in the same role in your life as they were, frankly. Like that's just part of it. So I guess how bittersweet is that?
Well, kind of just, just rewind real fast, just of like speaking about the personal coaches, that's also kind of what I was saying of getting with the colleges and RTCs is that even though you might not be their complete personal coach, to be able to spend time with them, that they feel comfortable enough that you can actually offer advice to them and those kind of things is definitely a goal and a passion of mine too, where we could do more training. I could visit these schools and colleges a lot more to develop those relationships a lot better, that say their personal coach can't go with them, they feel comfortable enough with me and I'm going to offer that piece of advice, to help them win a match. But to kind of go back to your point of leaving OSU and being here for 21 years. It's unique. Stillwater's a unique place. And it's kind of hard to explain it to some other people because they come in here and they just go to a football game or who knows, they just come in for a match or whatever. I think the hardest thing for me of leaving Stillwater is not necessarily the wrestling program, but just the people.
Right.
The community of people, my friends, my church, a lot of things that really, Stillwater, I came here as an 18-year-old kid, 18 turning 19 years old. And those are really development years in your life. It's where I met my wife. It's where I raised my family. And it really shaped me into the person that I am today, the values. And I'm very grateful for this town for that. It'll always have a special place. Like Stillwater, the actual city of Stillwater is very special to me. Outside the college, outside the program, outside all of that. I can't say much better things about it. Further of what you were saying.
No, that's perfect. Your body language, it's very interesting. Your body language changes when you talk about all that, like in a very cool way, like how meaningful you can just tell literally it's not just the words coming out of your mouth.
Even just say, like you mentioned, Jasper Lockett. If it wasn't for Jasper, I'm not sure my son would keep wrestling all the time. Like he was, because of him, like my boy, really started to love the sport.
Wow.
His kids, yeah, because it's tough. It's tough. You're wrestling. You got a father that's at Oklahoma State. I come in the room. I'm running practice for the little kids, or all those guys. But Zoe and Jasper and those guys. Those are guys that really instilled love for the sport. That it took the load off of me. To do that. Just welcoming. Just very welcoming people. Like that's what I mean by Stillwater. So, I think, but now you jump, I always kind of said to my wife, I'm like, this ain't the real world. Like, to, especially coming from Jersey, I was like, this ain't the real world. Our kids are like, I don't know if they're spoiled or what, but it's just like they got a great view on the world, and a great view on what it's like to have a community and set. Um, but I mean, I'm kind of like, maybe they could be in for a rude awakening later on.
Well, it is a different version of the real world. When you live in a small town, and the small town that you're in, what you're doing is very important in that small town. It's not normal to like I live in St. Louis. People live in like New York, Chicago. Like it's not the same.
I mean, I mean, growing up in Jersey, it's like I might not even know who my neighbor was. Could have been a serial for all I knew.
Yeah. Somebody asked me the other day about my neighbors. I don't know the names of any of them. I lived here for 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not good.
You know what though is really comfortable is that, we get the opportunity to do this as a family together. And I speak to a lot of people that have moved, and honestly, like, I mentioned Matt earlier, he's been on a bunch of different baseball teams, and as a family, it wasn't like they had a home base. They went and moved together. It was important for them to be together. And I think as a family, this helps us grow closer together as a family. I truly get to be a father figure, a father to my kids, and help them through this kind of things. But, what's crazy is that we were up in Colorado Springs, and, I was thrown off by how nice the people were, and realizing the more and more people I start talking to, like, I know a lot of people up here, so, for me, it's actually starting to be a lot more exciting that even though it's maybe a bigger place and a bigger city for us, there's still a sense of community. And obviously USA Wrestling helps a lot with that and the people around. I mean, we're pretty excited for it because obviously with a bigger town, bigger city, there's also, more opportunities in other areas, for your kids between the school and maybe some other sports and things like that. So, I mean, it's not like I'm jumping from here to New York City. So it'll be a nice process.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure you're right. Like I always tell people I have 50 couches all over the country. I could spend a night at, and people would be happy to have me and, help make them breakfast in the morning together. So it's nice that when you've done what you've done for this many years, you have literally friends all over the country and all over the world. I'm very interested in, now that you're sort of on the outside looking in, or just recently on the outside looking in, tell me about your relationship with John, because it obviously evolved from him being your coach to you being his right-hand man. What are, like, if you had to like give his eulogy or something like that, what would you say about John?
But they give his eulogy.
Well, no, I'm not trying to kill him off. I'm trying to say in a different way though. Like, you've been alongside of it for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just stepping away from it now. So I think, to be able to see it, but, I've seen John with the previous alumni that have left here. There's still nothing but love for everybody. I mean, people respect John, our guys respect John, our alumni respect John, and what I feel as a coach and what he did really well with me, along with him and the rest of the coaching staff, is that I never felt like I felt like it was more than a coach. And to me, that's how a coach is. And maybe that's because of the coaches that I've had in my life, from Ernie Monaco and Jeff Buxton, is that, the relationship, he was open, Coach Smith was open enough that it wasn't just a student athlete coach relationship. There was more to it, so even though we won't be necessarily working together every day, I think that personal relationship still stays there. I'm so grateful for John and really the Smith family. I mean, when I came here to Oklahoma, like I said, at 18, 19 years old, I mean, they welcomed me into their family. spending Christmases. I mean, heck, his youngest, his daughter was our flower girl in our wedding, so it's just, so I actually, to tell you the truth, I look forward to it more, that it's not a work relationship anymore. I look forward to it more that it's more of a personal, person to person relationship rather than, everything just based around the college program and winning and losing and that kind of stuff. So to me, I'm kind of looking forward to it a lot more.
Yeah, when my dad and I stopped coaching together, it was interesting. Like every day I was next to him, and it's like, well, how are we going to help Esposito reach his goals, or how are we going to help this guy and that guy? And it creeps up on you. You don't realize you're just like, Dad, how are you doing? How's mom? Like stuff like that, right? And or him, like, hey, how's life? How's your business? Those kind of things. And then you get away from it, and you don't have this team to talk about.
Yeah,
and you realize, either we're friends, we have to talk about other things in life, or we're not friends, and these are going to be really short conversations, right?
What's kind of funny is just I've heard other coaches talk, and Coach Smith offer advice to him. I'm just like, man, I don't even feel like I get that. Another coach of another college say, hey, I'm struggling, I got this kid and like this, and John is to some extent like, so open with them that helpful. I'm like, hey, quit giving stuff away, but it's kind of cool to see that. So maybe from that side of it, it'll be better.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's interesting, and I wanted to ask this, and I don't know the right way to ask it, but I'm going to try. Like, when you were on the team won, was it 4 team titles?
Yeah.
And one year there was 5 of you guys that won individual titles, right?
Yeah. So if Flow Wrestling and all that was around back then, it would have been a lot of publicity.
And your social media would be huge back then. Yeah.
It'd be a lot different. But at the same time, with that comes different type of pressures. But yeah, right. It was pretty incredible teams.
So when you had, it was you, Mako, Hendricks, Pendleton, and
Jake Rochelle.
Right. So 5 national champs, half the starting lineup.
Yeah, and then the 2 other All-Americans was Nathan Morgan and Coleman Scott.
Right. Yeah, the one of those guys turned out to be really good later. So, and so obviously you guys were at the top of the mountain, and then recently it's been a struggle. When you're not scoring 100 points every year and things like that. What do you think changed? Like, how was it gotten harder?
I mean, the competition has gotten harder too. I mean, you used to go wrestle Wyoming or South Dakota State or some of these other schools, and it was an off weekend. Now you're grinding out. I mean, South Dakota State's got a 2-time national champ as their head coach, and an assistant coach that's a national champ. Wyoming's got a 2-time national champ as their head coach. So like, I think the level of competition and coaching has just evolved so much too. With that, a lot of resources too. I mean, the RTCs and facilities, all those type of things all play a factor into reasons of why. That, and then, it's not like we fell off, big. I mean, I get it that people have seen OSU struggle the past 2 years, but a lot of that is also just, when you lose some big point scorers and you're not able to replace them right away, it takes time to rebuild it, and rebuild it in the right way. I'm confident in OSU. I didn't leave OSU because of that reason.
No, I didn't mean to apply that. No, yeah.
Oh, I've this is a job, like I said, it's something I enjoy. But as a college coach, you've been through some ups and downs of it. Coach Smith, he'll even say it too, and I'll say, we've been a part of, the greatest teams in Oklahoma State, and we also been a part of the worst teams in Oklahoma State history. But What's pretty incredible about Oklahoma State is that it's over 100-year-old program, and I believe it's finished out of the top 10 4 times ever. That's incredible. And in over 100 years, that's stability. That's consistency. There's a lot of things that kind of go into it, but I mean, you see overnight programs can change. We're seeing it recently, right now, of overnight how some programs can just change. You could go from X amount of points scored at nationals to a lot of different things. And I don't want to bring up examples of colleges that are.
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear in seeing. It's just, yeah, man, you got to fight and you got to grind it out and you got to find a way to uphold your tradition, uphold your standard. And yeah, I think for the last 2 years that LSU struggled, we lost some big point scorers, and some things that happened out of our control, and it takes time to regroup and build forward, and OSU's got a great group of young guys right now that can really make an impact and turn it around very quickly.
Yeah, no doubt the recruiting classes have been great, and I think just, I think it's a fair sentence. Like when you say it's only been out of the top 10 4 times and, 2 of them have been the last 2 years. If you're used to that, if you're a fan there and if you're used to ninth being something you're upset about, that's the standard, right? And so when it's worse than that, then, people want to get back to that standard. And, I did the rankings for years at track, and we still do a podcast about that weekly. And you guys, I say you guys, Oklahoma State has a bunch of these guys right now. You got, 3 returning All-Americans and then a bunch of guys that you could see that could do it for sure, and just a question probably how many of those guys punch through and whether or not, you're scoring 40 points or you're scoring 80 points. That's really what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, and if you have a young team with the COVID 6-year guys, people are like, why is Carter Young struggling to get off bottom? Like, well, he's an 18-year-old kid wrestling a 25-year-old right now.
You guys have one of those 25-year-olds, though.
Oh, now, yeah, we got one. OSU does have that right now. I mean, but for more, outside day, and they have a young team. They have a young team, but but at the same time, I was a young guy coming into OSU, was able to make an impact right off the bat. Coleman Scott was a young guy coming in right off the bat. Nathan Morgan. A bunch of guys, Daniel Fishburne. We had those young guys that come. So honestly, to tell you the truth, for once in my entire life, this is going to be an NCAA tournament I could go to and actually enjoy it.
It's very funny that you say that. Okay. Because the last couple of years I've done interviews on the ground, and so I'm on the floor when you guys are on the floor.
Yeah. And
I'm friends with a lot of you guys. Like a lot of you guys, like if it's July, if it's Fargo, let's go grab a beer and talk and what's going on. How are your mom and dad, David? And there it's like, it's the nod, maybe a fist bump, maybe depending on,
or maybe not right now, Dave, get away from
no, that's not even, I know not to even ask. Like, I don't even, it's like, no, like, unless like you had a kid just win a big match and we got to grab him after the quarter. And even then, and then the talks when the guys are running through the catacombs, like there's probably a whole podcast about how the catacombs of the NCAAs looks like a very high level homeless shelter.
Yeah. So, it's crazy when you talk about this town and everything, but, they're like how, the outreach of support from the community of gratitude for me. That's humbling. I didn't even realize that I made that much of an impact or I did. But when they say something, it's like, yeah, we'll miss you. I'm like, hey, just save me a seat in the suite at Nationals, please. Because this is the one time I'm gonna go. Only time I went. My brother wrestled. That was worse than when I was wrestling. The most I enjoyed it was when I was wrestling. The NCAA championship. So now to be able to sit back as a fan and maybe as an evaluator for USA Wrestling. That's going to be different and it's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah, Stephen Covey talks about your lens, the person's lens on the world. And, like your lens is going to change dramatically, right? Like literally the viewpoint from being on the ground to not being on the ground to literally caring about how 10 people are doing
Yeah.
to caring about how a lot more people are doing now. I mean, certainly you're going to still care about your guys. They're going to be your guys probably for the next 5 years till they all cycle out. And then Oklahoma State will still be a program you love, but like kids that you've had nothing to do with will have less meaning than the ones you've had a lot to do with, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's exciting. Like I said, it's this position that I'm taking is I can't explain it. It really is a passion of mine, and it really is a dream job for me. And like I said, to be able to represent the United States, I've been a part of some incredible teams and incredible clubs. I mean, from the Edge School of Wrestling to of one of the first clubs in New Jersey, and an incredible coach and father figure to me of Ernie Monaco, to Blair Academy, to having one of the could have been one of the best high school teams ever, of guys like Steve Mockel on the team, and um, oh my gosh, the list of names that are on that. And then to go on to Oklahoma State and be a part of a team, be a part of national championship teams, and one of those teams having 5 national champs, now onto USA Wrestling. It's like, you know, I'm able to check everything off the list, you know, and but I think the most gratifying thing is outside my own personal competition as a coach, it's definitely the most gratifying. Not for myself, but to see, even people accomplish goals that you've accomplished, or see them accomplish something that you've always desired to accomplish. To see them put in the hard work and professionalism, to go on and do great things. That as a coach to see, it's like a parent seeing your kid do something that they work so hard for, and just having, a sense of pride for them. So I'm excited to be able to share in on success of the athletes that are going to come through USA Wrestling, and you know you know help play a role in their development as an athlete and maybe as a person. That's the coolest thing. Is like, I think my first trip that I'm going to be going on is the U15 championships. We're working with 15-year-olds in the country. I mean, what more influential as a coach can you be on a person?
Right.
15? Same thing as a 17-year-old. To be able to, help Ladarian, alongside his coaches of Jasper and Zoe and others, of just like to help him prepare to win a world championships. I mean, that's awesome. That's incredible. It's just a little different type of influence you could play on them, rather than when they're 22 years old, 23, 25 years old, or even sometimes, freshmen in college. So I'm excited about that, mostly of working with those younger ages, and then obviously working with the colleges on their U20, U23 guys, and really offering Bill and Joe and the rest of them, assistance in the senior level guys. I'm a pretty eager guy, and I'm pretty excited about freestyle wrestling, and I'm like a nerd when it comes to the wrestling. I'm
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it.
Well, one of my favorite memories, like the last 2 years, was I got to sit with James, Bill, and Joe at the U.S. Open. Had to be a year and a half ago. It was the year that Maple won.
Yeah.
And but it was interesting where, like, I was asking him, like, well, would you throw a brick here? And then it eventually evolved into conversations like, how do you beat Sajalayev? And it was like attacking different sides of the body. And it's interesting when, like I always joke I'm Japanese Switzerland. Like, like I'm not, I can't screw anybody up, and I'm not trying to screw anybody up. And this, we've known each other for a long time. Like, even if I know something that probably the public would want to know, I don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come out on the podcast. It just comes out when it comes out. And these other people that it's really important in their life to be first, we let them be first. But I was like, I was there with a guy, Matt Collum. And when we left, he's like, man, that was freaking awesome. I'm like, yes, that was freaking awesome. And like, for us to have like a seat at that, and you to be one of the hosts of a meeting like that, where it's just all this brain power is flying around, that's going to be great. We're almost out of time. I will say you did unintentionally a masterful job of avoiding NIL questions, avoiding when is John leaving questions, avoiding if Coleman is taking over for John questions. So we bypassed all of that.
I mean, it's all part of it. I think that's what I'm excited about this job is that, I'm in it for the purity of the sport. I'm outside of college athletics right now. So I think being a part of it for the purity of the sport is something that a lot of coaches desire. And I hope that colleges will get back to it, and do. I think that they are. I shouldn't say get back to it, but there's definitely a lot of different factors right now. Are there different ways of doing it? Yeah. Is there a right way of doing it? I don't know yet if there's a right way of doing it or not. I think there is a way you can do it. But with that's going to come, building a culture that appreciates, what you're doing as a staff and as a college and as a program. So it's interesting to see, and, sitting off onto the sidelines and watching this, I feel for them, and that's why kind of being able to offer support, in the sense of like, I'm here to serve them. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve the coaches throughout the country, from kids to colleges. So that's exciting. The other stuff of John and Coleman. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. This was my choice of going. This wasn't, this was my choice of taking a job that I'm really passionate about. Whatever plays,
yeah, for sure.
Whatever plays out at OSU is OSU, the department, and the staff's decision. I wish them all the best and wish them all the luck. And if it works out for Coleman or for whoever in the entire country, then it does. So I'm not afraid to answer those questions or to bring them up or whatever it is, because
I was teasing you because I didn't ask him. I was just saying the timing of the conversation went that way.
No,
and the interview's about you. The interview's about what you're doing in USA Wrestling. I'm just joking with you.
No, but it's good. I mean, listen, Oklahoma State does have a dear place in my heart. It made me into the person who I am. It's because of Oklahoma State is why I'm able to get this job. So I'm grateful and I'm appreciative to that. And I won't ever hold whatever happens at OSU. I'm not cynical about it. So I'm excited for them and hope they do the best job, and along with the rest of the staff. So but I'm excited to be a part of USA now.
For sure. And let's finish it on that. Like, first of all, I've known you a long time, so I'm super just person to person. I'm just happy for you. Okay. Yeah. Like, I think it's cool. I do stuff I would say, when people say USA Wrestling, I don't use the word we, because I don't think I'm helping guys win matches or do anything, but I am on their airwaves. So it's awesome. Like when we're literally recording another podcast in 4 minutes about the backside of U23s and everything else going on. So, please give Brandy my best. You guys travel safe, and just congratulations, man. Really happy for you.
We'll have some follow-ups after World Championships and everything. So
after Worlds, and now you can come to National Wrestling Hall of Fame duels as just evaluating talent.
Yeah.
Well, you were evaluating talent before, but in a different way. Yeah, you got to come down right before Christmas. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, guys, for Zach, I'm David. We'll speak to y'all next week.